What is going on, everybody? It is Tyler here, and when you hear that rad music going on in the background, you know what time it is. That's right, let's get jumping right in to the Keyblade podcast. What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Keyblade podcast. Today on the podcast, I got two very special announcements. First of all, I am going to be introducing a new segment called Keyblade Konversations, where we go into spoilers with movies, video games, TV shows, whatever it may be. Along with me today to kind of go into detail and a little bit of spoiler talk with the Defenders is my good friend Jake. What's going on, man?
Not much. Hey, everyone.
He is so glad to be here, and if you guys have seen my Call of Duty World War II impressions and predictions video, we've tried this podcast a couple times. We are actually not in studio at the moment. We are actually on a undisclosed secret location that I will remain secretive that is allowing us to record this awesome podcast. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the Defenders. I know I've been wanting to do this for a while. The show's been out now, and I figured it's also kind of worked out because a lot of you guys have had times to check out the show, to get some details in it, to catch some of the Easter eggs that maybe you didn't catch, all that good stuff. So you guys have had time to check out the show. 8 episodes miniseries on Netflix. With that in mind, this is a spoiler-ridden podcast. There will be major spoilers of the show in this podcast. So if you guys have not seen it already, go ahead and check it out. Only 8 episodes, like I said. Then come on back to the podcast and then listen into what we have to say. So, Jake, I wanted to ask you, you are the guest, of course, what stood out to you in the Defenders?
More than anything, I would have to say the character interaction.
I love that too.
Just
I thought that was really cool.
Seeing the way they all came together, seeing them butt heads. It was great, and it made it even better seeing them finally come together in the end as the Defenders.
It really tied well in the end, and I really liked that. Like you said, I really did like the relationships. Upon the first watch, it kind of started out really mysterious with Danny and Colleen going after the hand, picking up right where Iron Fist left off, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah,
because that was the last show we got, and then it just picks up right then and there. So I thought that was cool. One of the main things I liked was the theme song.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Nice.
I am a sucker for these theme songs, and I think I like them all. Each one has like their own unique characteristic. Like I like Daredevil's because it was just the visuals in that were just so...
That's still got to be my favorite.
Oh, amazing. I love the visuals of the Daredevil theme song. I love the music in Jessica Jones' theme song.
Oh, yeah.
I love the tone that Luke Cage sets in his theme song. And then Iron Fist's song was great, but I'm not a big fan of
the shadow fighting.
Yeah, that was a bit weird. So, and I watched the show and the theme song plays and I'm listening to it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be an amazing show. And it's kind of weird to judge something off of just their theme song, but then I'm looking at all the visuals that it's showing and the characters being made through their different color grids and stuff, and the music is just really ramping you up, and I'm like, let's get into it, guys.
And like you said, Netflix, they know what they're doing.
They definitely do know what they're doing. And Netflix is by far my favorite Marvel property on television.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean,
every Netflix show, even Iron Fist, was, a lot better than, what Inhumans is going to be. But anyway, let's stick to the Defenders a little bit here, guys. Like Jake said, and I have to agree with him, the character interaction was nice. I really did like seeing them all come together in a slow pace. I know a lot of people were complaining about that, the pacing of the show, how it was slow at first, kind of built up in the middle, and then kind of went downhill in the end. I would have to disagree with that. Like, we're going to get to the end in a minute here, guys, but we're going to talk about our initial impressions of the show and all that. So what was your favorite episode in the show?
Ooh. It was great seeing the last episode, finally seeing them come together, but I'd say my favorite, I think a lot of people's favorite, probably the Royal Dragon.
Oh my goodness. That was actually everyone. I think the general consensus really loved that episode. The entire episode takes place inside the restaurant, and it picks up them coming in, and the episode ends with them basically leaving. And I absolutely love it.
It's great because it's a very simple setting overall. It takes place in one location, but there's great character development. It's nice seeing them all, like I said, again, a lot of butting heads, but there's also some great action in there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Speaking of, everyone loving this episode, I was looking at IGN's review, and I'll go to IGN a lot for just anything. I'll look at just general video game reviews just to see how a movie went and all that. I don't find them too credible when it comes to that stuff. And I know I know you're like this, but whenever I see a review of a movie or a video game, like more or less a movie, I'll still see the review and just go check it out just because and kind of make my own judgment on it. Video games I'm a little bit more picky about because those cost more money than an actual movie. But IGN, man, they didn't think the show was all that great. I was actually surprised because on IGN, Daredevil has a 9. It's an amazing show according to IGN. I mean, all across the board, Daredevil is just an amazing show. Both seasons.
It should get 9s everywhere.
Oh, of course. But I think one of the things I will have to say about the Defenders is that a lot of people who weren't fans of the original shows didn't really know about it. We only got 2 big trailers for it, with the third one being the Stan Lee narrated teaser, I guess you want to call it.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And that even seemed more or less like a Netflix universe setup because the Punisher was in that one. You know, symbolizing the Punisher was coming back to Netflix in the form of his own show. So we had that. The thing is, I don't feel that the general public knew a lot about this show, and I think that's something that put it on edge a little bit and kind of was why it didn't get reviews or why it didn't get good reviews across the board. I don't know. It just seemed like not enough people got to watching it.
You're right. I mean, whenever Daredevil came out, that was all over the place. It was huge.
It was
same thing with Jessica
yeah.
Jones was another really big one.
Jessica Jones was big because those comics are relatively new in Marvel and
also more adult.
Way more adult. I'm not gonna lie. When I first heard they were gonna make a Jessica Jones show, I was like, wait.
How?
That better be on Netflix, dude. I'm telling you. I am telling you. But yeah, and all those shows were great, like I said, with the exception of Iron Fist, which was the weaker of the 4. And even though I liked it, I can see why it's the least liked among the 4.
Danny definitely works better in the group setting.
Yeah, definitely. But then we get to the Defenders, and then, everyone's calling it, which it kind of was, but then I look at it, and I'm like, nah, not really. The street-level Avengers, which... Yeah, you can call them that.
In a sense.
But then again, I mean, really, is it? Are they really? I mean, they're just a bunch of they're a group of people who some may have superpowers, and I use that in air quotes there, who are all coming together to fight one enemy that unites them together. So, the premise is there. It's a really nice plot. And that's going to lead me into my next topic is the Hand. The Hand in Defenders. We're sticking with that. So before we go in depth with the Hand, let's just say this: Sigourney Weaver, perfect cast. I have this theory: she can play any role you give her. She is just.
I would agree with that.
Her character, man. I tell you what, like I've told you before, when her character or this character is going to be a really, really cool one when she's sitting in the park bench. This is in the first episode, right?
Yeah.
This is in the first episode. And you see Alexandra, Sigourney Weaver's character, just kind of feeding the birds, doing what, elderly women do in the park, whatever. And then Madame Gao, the one and only, the OG Hand member, comes up and they're talking, they're chit-chatting. And then you see Sigourney Weaver's character, who's just got thrown into the mix, tossing her around and giving her orders. That's when you're like...
When you give orders to Madame Gao and she listens.
Yeah. That's when you're like, whoa. She's a baddie. She's going to be really cool. And as the show progressed, she never really got to... The thing is, her character, I can see how they did it. I really liked how they did her character. And unfortunately, like I said, guys, spoiler alerts, she dies, unfortunately. She didn't do much leading up to her death, but if you think about it, she did.
The little that she did was more than enough.
The impact she had on the other members of the Hand was unique. I like what she brought to the table, and even though some people are saying her character was underwhelming, I can see how people can see that and are saying that, but at the same time, her character was amazing. That character that it's implied that she had so much power, you just know in your mind, don't mess with her. Unfortunately, she ends up dying by the hands of her own creation, basically. But anyway, the Hand. What did you think of the Hand? In the Defenders, I know they were built, like they were building the Hand in the other shows, and then they were kind of brought full surface to the table in the Defenders. What did you think of them?
It was interesting because we really spent more time with Alexandra, Gao, and the other 3 fingers that made up the leadership of the Hand But we didn't get to see a whole lot of the group as a whole. We really saw more of that in Daredevil, especially in season 2.
Yeah.
So they were... I can understand why some people would say they're a little bit underwhelming, considering going back to Daredevil, they were stopping their heartbeats and kicking his butt, and
right.
Nobu and all that. But they were... I'd say the leaders, I enjoyed them.
I think that was where the emphasis wanted to stay, too. Because a lot of people were saying, when they reviewed the show, that the Hand was just an underwhelming group of villains. Their purpose wasn't clear, all this kind of stuff, whatever. But you also got to think about this, too. And this is a point that I'm going to be, recurring in the length of this podcast here, is that, for one, this universe is constantly building. I don't believe that even at the end of the show, the Hand is just gone. That's not the case.
They can't be. As long as they've been around, which they have been around for a long time.
A long time.
Clearly.
Just a few centuries. I mean, maybe a few millennia. Maybe, But the universe is still building, and the ending of the show wasn't the end to really anything besides the show itself.
If anything, it just kicked up a whole bunch more.
Oh my goodness.
Mess.
We're going to get to how the show ended in a few minutes here, guys, but that's what I wanted to kind of get across today, is that you look at these reviews of the show, and specifically IGN didn't really care for it, gave it an okay. And that's the thing, you got to take that into consideration too. This universe is still constantly building. This is the television Netflix MCU. And even though it's technically tied in with the other movies and stuff, and a little bit, it's kind of declined, the little references they made here and there. But it's still building. You watch the end of the show, you think, what did I just watch? What is happening? Don't worry, it's going to come back full circle in phase 2, I guess you want to call it, of Netflix.
I guess we could call it that.
So phase 1 is concluded. Phase 2 is going to be coming up very, very soon. I'm guessing with The Punisher. We'll see how that plays out. But anyway, so let's get into the juicy details that happened in The Defenders. So Elektra came back, and that was pretty awesome. I love Elodie Young as Elektra. Oh,
again, sorry, Jennifer Garner, but Elodie
Young. Man, I tell you what, we brought this up a few days ago when we were talking about it, kind of going over what we're going to say. The casting in all the shows is, just magnificent.
It's spot on. It's perfect.
Magnificent. I know a friend of mine who actually doesn't like Charlie Cox as Daredevil. To him, I say, well, who's a better Daredevil? And if you say Batman himself, get out the room. I love Charlie Cox as Daredevil. He is the reason I kind of got back into him as much as I am now.
Right.
Because
no offense, but Ben Affleck kind of destroyed it.
Oh, I love what Charlie Cox brings to the table. A lot of people were thrown off that he was British. Remember that?
I didn't know that until I think they started releasing promo stuff for season 2. I just hadn't looked into it until then.
I didn't even know about it either. But anyway, the casting is perfect, and Elektra was good. She came back in the show, and it kind of made sense how she came back because of the way Daredevil season 2 ended,
right? With
her being the Black Sky, her dying, and the Hand. It was actually kind of cool seeing that, because then it was like, oh, what's the Hand going to do now that their god is dead? So it was interesting. She comes back. We get Stick. The first time we see him, it seems like that man is always in pain, mentally or physically.
I think he enjoys it at this point.
I think he does. And I'll tell you how, because remember, it's in the beginning of the show, he's basically tied to this pole, and the same guy who got the bamboo sticks shoved up his finger. I know you're trembling just thinking about it. I am too.
The skewers.
This dude is tied to a pole, okay, and just decides, hey, there's a sword right there, might as well make use of it. Cuts off the hand. Boom, done. Which when you think about it, isn't it kind of ironic that he cut off his hand?
It is.
Oh my gosh, the amount of puns we can go in with that. My goodness. But
yeah, I gotta hand it to you. That was pretty good.
That's a high five right there. Okay, so I can't stop thinking about it now. Oh my goodness. So yeah, guys. So Stick's back, and kind of getting towards the end here, he unfortunately dies again by the hand of Elektra, and Elektra just racking up the body count. I tell you what, man. I tell you what, and I'm not gonna lie, that happened so quick. I didn't even know how to react to it.
I know, because then they just throw you into the rest of it.
Exactly. So the way it goes down is that like you guys have seen, basically everything's all good, and at this point they're kind of tying up Danny, for their own reasons and all that. The next thing you know, Elektra's there, she's talking, there's a little bit of a dialogue exchange, and then all of a sudden she just kills Stick. And I'm like, and then they start fighting,
And then Matt jumps into it, and Jessica, and
exactly, and then you have no time to react, and I'm like, what do I do? Do I cry? Do I cheer? What's happening right now? So
I honestly wish they would have spent a little more time, a little more emphasis on that.
Yeah, well, I do too. And before we actually get to like the pinnacle ending here, I do want to go ahead and say this, that if I really do think that this could have been a little bit longer. This is one of the very few shows that I've watched, whether it be on regular network television or Netflix or any of the streaming services, where I wish the show could have gone for much longer. Right, I wish it could have, not much longer, but maybe a couple more episodes. Basically what I mean by that is I wanted some more filler. I wanted some more of just the Defenders doing what they do.
More bonding, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Like whenever Jessica and Matt, a perfect example is when they went back to the architect's house, and she was telling her about her friend's dad.
I know what you mean. Yeah, that scene. Yeah, that scene where she goes in, like you said, going back to the relationships between them. It's interesting to see how like Jessica's like this stern character. She'll never change and all this kind of stuff. But deep down, she knows what's right, but she'll never show it. That's just how she is. Like
I was talking about the other day, she does have a heart. It's not all just whiskey down there.
It's not. It's not whiskey-infused coffee at all.
Oh, that was great.
I don't know if you know this, but a friend of mine didn't even catch it, and I was listening for it, and I heard it. That scene where they're at the architect's home, Matt goes on the piano. He plays the Defenders theme.
Wait, that's...
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that.
He actually is playing, and I was like, wait a minute. Because that's the thing. I'm not going to lie. Every time an episode they had come on, I watched the theme song in full.
Oh, me
Netflix
too.
had the skip intro, and I'm like,
why do you put that
Get that out of here, man. I don't want that. So I'm listening, and he's playing the piano, and I'm like, wait a minute. That sounds familiar. And I rewinded it a little bit. And I'm listening, I'm like, oh my gosh, it is. It's the theme song. It was crazy.
That is crazy, because I remember thinking I had heard it before, but I didn't pinpoint it.
That's it. Yeah, just go back and watch that episode. It's crazy, dude. When you hear it, you're like, whoa. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. But speaking of Daredevil, guys, so the ending of the show, what a jump. Oh. What a jump. The ending of the show happens, and basically they find out what's going on, and, basically figure out, hey, the center of the hand, the palm. I love it. I can't believe we never did this before. The palm of the hand is in this building in New York City.
Midland Circle.
Yeah, Union Circle, which is how I think the building is what tied everyone together. In the end, to kind of all come together, and their plan is to blow it up. And people were complaining, "Oh, it's such a cop out." It's like, it had to happen, but whatever. So then this happens. Everyone's fighting. They're in the underground part. The hand gets to what they have to do. They utilize the Iron Fist to their purpose, which I'm not gonna lie was kind of like, whoa. When they open up that underground passage, and you see the dragons of Kunlun. I'm like, dude, that's crazy. A lot of people overlook that too. I'm not gonna lie, because the first time they opened the chamber, I'm looking and I'm like, okay, I see a bunch of like fossils. I'm like, what is it supposed to be? And then you see like one of the wing bones.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, it's like Kunlun dragons and stuff. And I'm like, yes.
But also, why are they underground in New York?
Good question. For another podcast, because I think I have an answer for it, but it's a bit lengthy. It basically ties into Iron Fist Season 2, where I'm thinking some of that is going to be a lot of flashbacks because that's the thing. If the hand had this like cliffhanger ending, and if they're still alive, or if they're still have an influence on everywhere they're, on the world basically, I think that we're gonna actually get a look into more of the history in Iron Fist, because I think at this point he has a more closer connection to them than any other shows do.
Definitely.
So I'm thinking that's gonna come back, because they didn't really they didn't focus on the dragon's bones too much. So I'm thinking that's probably gonna come into play maybe in Iron Fist Season 2.
I would hope so, because I'd like to get a little more information.
But that would be cool. And so basically the ending happens. Daredevil is still trying to get Elektra to come back on his side, and I thought it worked in the middle of the show when she was at his apartment. That was when I thought that it threw me off when she killed Alexandra, because then I'm like, so wait a minute, is she back in her right mind? Because in the whole show, you guys gotta remember, she's basically a newborn when she comes back from the dead. So it's very interesting. And I saw her going into the apartment, laying down on the bed, thinking she remembered everything, but she did, but she still had that demon inside her and all that kind of stuff. So it was
like
a bit...
like you were saying, when she killed Alexandra, I thought, okay, maybe she's back and she's trying to take out the hand, but then she just takes over.
Exactly. It was really... It was weird, but I liked it because it basically personifies the fact that Elektra can't stop killing. She won't stop killing. That's just how she is.
Whether she's her or not.
Whether she's Elektra Nachios or the Black Sky, she has that demon inside her that she cannot shake. And I really, upon the end of the show, that's when I realized that was cool how they did that. But anyway, we're kind of like sidewinding here. Basically what happens is Daredevil and Elektra are fighting. They're the only two left in the underground part of the building. The building's about to collapse. They have this like timed explosive device on it. And as Daredevil and Elektra are still fighting, Matt is like, hey, go in the elevator, save yourselves, being the hero that he is, and whispers something to Danny, which we're like, what'd you tell him, Matt?
This ain't gonna be good.
This isn't gonna be good. And then they all go in the elevator, they escape the building explodes, and then the building explodes with Elektra and Matt underneath it. And then you're like, okay, he's gonna come up all in the rubble, and everything's gonna be fine and dandy. And then they drive off, all their friends, like you guys know, in the police station, and you're thinking, all right, come on, Matt. Come on. All their little friends are there.
And Luke walks in.
You got
Misty.
You got Colleen there. You got Misty. You got Claire.
Trish.
Malcolm. And then you get Foggy and Karen.
And they're just staring at the door.
And like this camera slowly zooms in on the door, man. And you're like, that you can tell that was where all their emotion went in that when they were filming it. Because like I said, the stick death was a little fast-paced.
Rushed.
But then the moment you realize and you kind of come to understand that, wait, Matt's actually dead. It's like, what? It's crazy to think. And that scene, they pulled on the heartstrings so well. I have to respect Marvel even more for it.
I know.
But, oh man, but it was crazy. And then the ending happens. Basically what happens is we think that Daredevil's dead. But then he ends up coming along. We see, so basically what happens is we think he's dead. We see him laying in his bed with this nun over him. And then we're like, all right, this is good. What's going to happen? And he starts to move. Well, then this nun is basically saying, hey, I need y'all to go get Maggie. And then me, I'm like, dude, Daredevil Season 3 teaser to the extreme. So for those of you that don't know, Maggie is actually Daredevil's mom.
Right, you were telling me that. I didn't even realize that until the last time we talked about it, which that blows my mind.
Which it was, and I was just blown away because the show, like the nun is like she says that, and then the show just ends. That's it. No, everyone went on their separate ways, realizing what they had to do for the city and all that, realizing that these other heroes exist. Matt's in this convent, basically on his deathbed. They're healing him up, and then they call for his mom, which we've only heard about more in Daredevil Season 1, because that was when we got to look at Jack and all that. So we got Jack's side of the story. Now it's going to be interesting to see Maggie's side of the story.
Because clearly Jack was not the religious one.
He was not. You could... No. He was bit of a crooked boxer, wouldn't you say? Just a wee bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
He meant well.
He cheated his way. But he did take care of Matt. He took care of Matt. But didn't take care of Matt. Who really took care of Matt when he was a kid?
Matt.
Matt did. In the end, Matt did. But yeah, guys, and I got to tell you what. The ending, a lot of people weren't too pleased with the ending, particularly IGN, and I keep bringing them up because they kind of got to me a little bit when I read their review and finished the show up and everything. I was like, man. And that's where I kind of built on the theme of, the show didn't end. The show didn't end along with the universe. It's still going on. I felt that if the show would have ended just bluntly with like the Defenders and then kind of wraps everything up, we wouldn't have had anything to look forward to.
Right.
Because if you think about it, all these shows, the way each one has ended, I mean, you can argue like, okay, maybe Jessica Jones,
it's the end of an arc, but they usually blend right into something else.
Yeah, so, I mean, if they would have just ended it with like this blunt ending, like, okay, see y'all later, and everyone's all fine and dandy, it wouldn't have had the effect. And it would have pleased people who just want to watch the show, which, you know, you're always going to have the general audience who just wants to watch one show and get over with.
But for the most part, the people who are watching this are in it for the long haul.
Oh, and they started from the beginning. They worked their way to now, and they want more. That's the thing, they want more. So I don't think the ending was bad. I just think that it was built for the fans only. That's my consensus about it.
And I would have liked to see more of them as the Defenders, but I also get why they did it the way they did.
I didn't. A lot of people were saying too, which I totally disagreed with. Everyone was saying that, oh, if Danny doesn't get his costume in the Defenders, I'm going to be so upset. And I look at them with a straight face. I'm like, think about what Danny's costume is.
I know. If Danny gets his costume in the Defenders, if he gets his costume, I'm going to be upset because
I'm
sorry, but
I'm thinking to myself, dude, it's not gonna happen. Because I remember I told a couple friends, like, leading up to the show releasing, they were like, oh, I hope he gets his costume. And I look at him, he's not getting his costume, but he might get his mask, but not his costume. We're not gonna get the costume for at least probably till the end of season 2 of Iron Fist. But speaking of Iron Fist, I totally forgot to mention this to you guys, but basically when Daredevil whispers a thing to Danny when they're all leaving the building, basically he told him that defend New York. Like, take up my spot, be the hero you were meant to be.
Which he literally takes up his spot and does the Daredevil brooding over the city perch.
That's why I was looking at that scene where you see Danny on the rooftop. The color scheme looked so much like Daredevil. I thought that Matt just sprung up out of nowhere and was like, I'm back, everybody.
I know.
And I'm like, wait. And then it zooms in and I'm like, oh, it's just Danny. That's when I was kind of like, okay, cool. So what made me excited about that particular moment was that we get this, okay, I'm a New York defender now. I want to defend the people of New York and no more of this. Yeah, I'm the Iron Fist, sworn protector of Kunlun. My goal in life is to destroy the Hand. This whole uniform.
And if you don't have that memorized, by the way, you fail.
No. Actually, doesn't Danny summon the fist more than he does in Iron Fist?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. It seems like and I was hoping we could get into a little more character stuff after this, but it seems like Danny in the Defenders has finally learned, when it comes to being the immortal Iron Fist, sworn protector of Kunlun, show, don't tell.
Exactly. I could not agree with you more. Dude, you can just harness that chi of yours. Boom, bing, boom. We're done. So to get into character development, that's how the show basically ended, guys. I think we covered most of the important stuff and what we thought about it. But let's talk about characters a little bit. I know my favorite development, you know, besides all 4 of the characters, banter and all that good stuff, Misty and Colleen. That gets me really excited because, like I said, well, for those of you that don't know, in the comics, Misty and Colleen basically form this hero duo, basically the female heroes for hire, known as the Daughters of the Dragon. And towards the ending of the show, I would say the last 2 to 3 episodes of it maybe, they start to get to know each other a little bit, know how each other operates, get to know each other in general. And
when you're blowing up a building with somebody, it's nice to have a little bit of a relationship.
You want to know who you're blowing the building up with, guys. It's just a common thing. And interestingly enough, Misty Knight from Luke Cage, who's in the Defenders, in the final hours of the show, her arm gets cut off, which, you know, was cool. I mean, bad for her. I mean, you know,
she's been through quite a bit.
Rip that right arm, Misty. I mean, but hey. But basically, in the comics, Misty Knight actually gets his bionic arm in the comics from Tony Stark. But in the show, I think how they're going about Rand's going to help you out. 'Cause that's what Colleen had said.
Right, Danny's company owns the hospital that was going to...
Yeah, like fund her arm, basically. And you had brought to my attention, too, and showed me the picture of her with the arm.
Entertainment Weekly had released a picture from Luke Cage Season 2 of her with her bionic arm.
And he said that to me, and he's like, did you see the picture? And I'm like, what picture? And I'm like, I've only seen, like, the comic book picture of Misty with the fro and everything and the arm. And I'm like, no. He's like, no, they released, like, a real picture. I'm like, no way. And I was like, show me. And he pulls it up, and I'm looking at it, and it's Luke and Misty with the bionic arm. And I'm
straight
like,
out of the comics.
Like, yeah, and it looks, Luke Cage Season 2 cannot get here soon enough, guys.
I know.
Oh, my goodness. But yeah, that was my favorite character development in the show. I loved how they set that up, because I don't think they're going to get, like, a solo show, but they will be teaming up eventually.
Right, and that's one thing I'm hoping is that maybe from here on out we'll get, even before Defenders happens, maybe we'll have characters cross over into each other's shows for team-up episodes, which would be nice.
That would be cool, yeah.
Speaking of Luke Cage, though, one of my favorite character developments, actually in the first episode, Luke and Claire finally got that coffee.
Yes, yes, they finally got the coffee. Oh my gosh, dude, that scene, it like threw me off. I'm like, you can't have a Netflix Marvel show without something like that happening. And I'm like,
it's Claire. No offense, but it's Claire.
It's Claire, and like, it's kind of subtle. They see each other again. He just gets out of prison. We're just getting the introduction because we see Luke and Foggy meet, which is kind of cool, you know. And then coffee time, baby. Let's go. I'm like, whoa, this took a big right turn. But it was, oh man, it was great. It was fantastic, guys. But to wrap things up here, I think we've talked about most of what we wanted to.
Just about.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask you, Jake, out of 10, what would you give this show, and would you recommend it to a friend?
Let's see. I'm going to have to break this up a little bit. I would say I never really feel right giving anything a solid 10 because there's always room for improvement somewhere.
There is, yeah.
But character-wise, this show definitely gets a 9.5 out of 10. The characters, just their interactions, their portrayals, it's all as close to, just about as close to perfect as you can get. As far as the story goes, I had some issues with the Hand's plan as far as it just being bring back the Black Sky and we'll see where it goes from there. And their whole plan with the Dragon Bones, you understand it, but they're not. I feel like their intentions could have been a little bit clearer. But I'd say the story, I'd probably give that an 8, maybe an 8.5 out of 10. And I would definitely recommend it to everyone I know.
I know we both have a mutual friend who it's been, at this current time, it's been 4 weeks, a month since the show's released, and he has not watched it yet. So, right. And we keep talking about it, he's like, no, stop. And we're like, dude, it's not our fault. We watched it, we had it done, not even before the weekend was over.
I know, I think I started it like 3 a.m. on Friday and finished it Saturday morning.
Because I started it Friday evening, and I think I had it done Saturday night. Like, I finished the last episode. That's when I was calling everyone like, did you finish it? Did you finish it? Did you finish it? Oh, man. But I would give it simply because of something of, you know, I felt like there was a lack of filler. Me personally, I feel that 8 episodes was a little bit on the short side. I wanted it to be like 1 or 2 episodes longer. Just a little bit of them fighting more. Because we really only got 3 major scenes where they're fighting together. That's in the Union Building, the restaurant, when Alexandra comes in, and then the final moments in the final episode. So that's really all we got with the Defenders coming together as the Defenders and fighting and doing what they do. And the thing is, when they were on screen doing that stuff, it was fantastic.
That hallway fight.
Oh, the way they utilized, I didn't realize this until like I was kind of looking back at the show and just thinking about it. They utilized different like rap songs and different kind of music into the battle sequences, which I thought was really cool, and it brought a unique twist on it.
It worked really well.
Because we're used to like these fight scenes in all the different shows where they got like this dramatic music, the drums go on, you know, all this kind of stuff, this like cinematic and dramatic music. Then they kind of change it up a little bit and they throw in a little Wu-Tang Clan in there.
It's just to hype you up.
They brought, you know, a couple jewels in there, and it was great. The thing is, I wish there was more of that. I wish we could have had a little bit more filler with them just kind of doing whatever they want to do. Because of that, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. You know, could have had a little bit more filler. I do agree with what you said, and I want to kind of piggyback off the Hand. I just feel that I wanted to see more Hand ninjas, right. And that kind of ties back to what I was saying with more fighting with the Defenders.
I mean, the ones we did see was nice, where Elektra was like, okay, no lights and 30 dead ninjas, go.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes. I love that because I really love Elektra's character. Yeah. And I love how this whole universe is going more in depth with her than your girl Jennifer Garner. We love you as an actress, Miss Garner.
Not as Elektra.
But you tell me what's in my wallet every day, and I respect you for that. And I love all your other movies. But yeah, so you're great. Elodie Young, man. Elodie Young, man. Jennifer Garner is gonna see this and be like, man, if I ever had the chance to meet them, boy, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna give them a hard time. But anyway, 8.5 out of 10. Would strongly recommend to a friend. However, I would tell that friend to sporadically, if they don't have time, watch a few episodes of the shows, and if they do have time, watch the other shows. Because if you haven't watched them by now, they're really good, guys. And if you were a viewer who just watched the Defenders and you haven't gotten a chance to look at all the shows, just because you know what happens at the end of that, there's so much more you guys are missing out on
You'll
with
get
the other shows.
such a deeper appreciation for all the characters if you
Yeah,
go back and watch all their stuff.
I definitely feel, to kind of wrap things up here, is that this whole Netflix Marvel Universe thing, it's bringing to light these characters who never really were that popular. What Netflix and Marvel are doing here is they're taking these street level heroes, these comic book people, and all these characters that really didn't get a big spotlight thrown their way. Because, I mean, the Avengers, Iron Man, they got these huge blockbuster movies. And, of course, everyone knows them by now because, I mean, you know, Iron Man was like one of the first Stan Lee comics ever made, which is why Iron Man's my favorite by far. But you get a look, like, before 2015, who really knew who Jessica Jones was besides people who read the comics?
Right. It's like when they released Ant-Man. Everybody was like, really? Ant-Man?
Exactly.
Is this a joke?
And then Iron Fist was a bit more, you know, I feel like Luke Cage and Daredevil were the ones that people knew going into this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you got Daredevil, obviously had the movie, so everyone knew who he was with Ben Affleck.
Whether you liked it or not, you knew
whether you liked it or not, he was Daredevil at one point. But, and then Luke Cage, Power Man, has been in several stuff. I mean, I know he's been in a few episodes of Spider-Man cartoons.
Oh, he was a big part of the Ultimate Spider-Man.
So yeah, and I know some of I know the Defenders have had their fair share of like cartoon shows and, you know, them being in there, but these shows brought to life a more adult, more mature, darker,
more grounded.
Exactly, that's the word I was looking for. A more grounded story, which I am loving and cannot wait to see more on. The next show we're going to be getting, hopefully soon, is The Punisher, because they're throwing out so many teasers our way. They're not giving us a release date. They're saying 2017, but
it's almost over. Hurry up.
Exactly. Hurry up, guys. I'm ready for that. I am really excited about that. But yeah, guys, you heard it here first. Me, my friend Jake, love The Defenders. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, we strongly encourage you to check it out because it is such a good show. You guys are going to love the action scenes. If you guys are just into like action stuff, definitely check it out. It's very story driven, but it has some of the best fight scenes you've ever seen on a television show. That's going to do it for us, guys. Jake, thanks for coming by. Appreciate
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, so that's going to do it for us here on the Keyblade podcast. If you are new to the channel and have not done so already, please be sure to subscribe for more awesome videos and content coming you guys' way very, very soon. If you enjoyed this particular podcast, be sure to drop a like as that helps out so much. And if you want to go ahead and ask me a question, just kind of hit up a conversation with me on Twitter. I'm always on there. Go ahead and check that out. Link will be in the description below. That's going to do it for me. I will see you guys in my next video. And until then, peace out.